Welcome back, friends, to our Gym Challenge Sundays here at Psycho Turtle Collectibles, hosted by Pokemon Labs. We are in our top 8 match here, and you're going to see two very well-known players, Joshua Denk, who we saw earlier with that Dondozo Tatsugiri team, and Anthony Plasencia, who's been here for a long time, really good friend here of the SoCal community, and he's going to be running a very interesting team. You're going to see on screen, he's on the left side with Ninetales, Kanto Form, Tornadus Incarnate, Ogerpon, Hearthflame, Iron Hands, Fluttermane, and Lender's Therian, while Joshua's on the right with Dondozo, Tatsugiri, Stretchy Form, Chimpao, Dragonite, Chiyu, and Fluttermane.
Yeah, and I think the big thing here is Anthony's team revolving around that sun, having the Ninetales in the Kantoan form to set the Drought, as well as Tornadus Incarnate, which can Prankster, Sunny Day, get that set up as well. The Fluttermane benefits, the Fluttermane having the choice specs, meaning it doesn't get the photosynthesis, meaning the photosynthesis helps with the sun getting set up, and of course Ogerpon getting those fire-type moves boosted in the sun. All of those Pokemon working together to some degree here.
Absolutely. I think this is a very interesting matchup for Chimpao Dragonite if you're Josh, because you kind of have to focus on getting rid of the Fluttermane, and you kind of get a clue that, this Fluttermane, its choice specs, it's in Sun, most likely they're going to want to boost their special attack in the Sun, especially with Helping Hand, considering that does an absurd amount of damage. So I got to focus on it, and I wouldn't actually be surprised if we see Chimpao Fluttermane here, because you want to focus that Fluttermane on the other side, and it does really well. Could also see Fluttermane Chiyu, just because that's a very consistent combo, although I would be scared if you did see Kanto, Ninetales, and Fluttermane on Anthony's side.
See that Dragonite Chimpao, which we saw a handful of times when we watched Josh's team earlier. And it is, as you mentioned, that Ninetales and Fluttermane. That is the Kanto and Ninetales, just shiny. Which makes it
does look like
the Alolan Ninetales.
And we were right about how Fluttermane getting that special attack boost. I think this, it's not even a half bad position. Maybe a hot take. I say you go Extreme Speed into the Fluttermane. It's pretty obvious it's going to Terra.
Yeah, and what is Fluttermane really going to do about that?
Not much. You go for that, plus you go for a, considering its choice specs, you can just pretty much Icicle Crash it, or Sucker Punch plus Extreme Speed.
I think, Sucker Punch plus Extreme Speed probably does most or all of its HP. You can even go Aqua Jet if you're really scared of it not terastallizing, which it is.
And there it is. Actually, Aqua Jet's not even half bad. You weren't going to do a ton of damage because of the sun, but it doesn't really matter. I think at this point you just go Icicle Crash into Aqua Jet or Extreme Speed, depending on whether you call it Terra.
This is Sucker Punch coming out first.
That's acceptable.
Ooh, that does less damage than I thought, and it is the Aqua Jet.
Ooh, that Terra actually
get it.
The Terra saved it. That's okay. Well,
Terra does save it, and the Dragonite is gone. Chimpao brought down to the Focus Sash. Tons of damage there, and yeah, the Terastallization reading the options there. I mean, and the Heat Wave does finish off the Chimpao as well. A great first turn for Anthony. Yeah, that was a great Terastallization call. It turns out that Terastallization was more flexible than it could have been, and also honestly read the Aqua Jet move to some extent.
Yeah, I mean, really well played.
Because if that was the Extreme Speed, then Fluttermane probably drops to both of those moves coming out together.
Absolutely.
And now we do get the Dondozo Tatsugiri as the lineup in the back. They have 4 Pokemon to run through. I feel like at this point you can probably switch out the Fluttermane if you feel like it, and then bring it in again to use Thunderbolt.
Yeah.
Or the Dondozo will Terra, and you have a different option to make. But in either case, you could just honestly use Dazzling Gleam again. It's not like it wouldn't. It's not like it wouldn't just blow this Dondozo up.
It's definitely going to miss the Tatsugiri because, well, it's currently connected with the Dondozo, but that Dazzling Gleam does
pretty good
really
damage.
Good, yeah.
And you don't really need much more than that.
Orrup, I'm a bit surprised at that, I'm not going to lie, because I thought we were going to see an Earthquake. Maybe it'd get the speed up right away, plus the Heat Wave, but I'm actually surprised we saw Heat Wave and not Energy Ball. Just trying to just chip it. Yeah, it may have gone for a Terra to Grass, but yeah. I think Energy Ball was still safer because it was one of those 50-50 calls. So, I
kind of like the order up there because I think Dondozo needs to be a little faster to try to sweep through the rest of this game. And Dondozo is actually kind of close to being able to beat the Ninetales and the Fluttermane at once and face off against those last two Pokemon?
I was gonna say, yeah, the Earthquake should outspeed because, if I'm not mistaken, we saw Joshua earlier with that Dondozo, and I believe it was able to outspeed, I believe it was Chi-Yu. So that means it's definitely at +1. It's about 170, 168 plus at level 50. So that is a really nice kind of knowledge there. And you know what? This may be Joshua's game right now. Both of the Pokemon here that Anthony is sending out would definitely be susceptible to an Earthquake. But turn 1, you protect Dondozo. You kind of have to, because you need to avoid that fake out, because a fake out plus Horn Leech just gives you the game. Another 50-50 call though for Joshua incoming, because do you Terra expecting a Horn Leech, or do you not Terra expecting an Ivy Cudgel? You gotta read Anthony and see what happens.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. We are about to get into a crucial 50-50 call, because one, this Dondozo has to outspeed both these Pokemon. I think it does. Yeah, no, it definitely does. Yeah. But past that, the Dondozo probably, I don't know, I think you have to Terrastallize. I think you have to hope that the Earthquake knocks out Ogerpon in one hit. Because I think if it doesn't, I think you're just done regardless.
I think actually here you go for Order Up onto the Ogerpon. Because I do not, if you Terrestrial, I don't think that Iron Hands can take 50% of you if you Terrestrial to Grass, because the Iron Hands has got Drain Punch, Wild Charge, Volt Switch, Fake Out. Not one of those moves is going to take 50% off you. So I think you go straight and hope that Ogerpon does not go for a Spiky Shield, because that would just end the match.
It is the Terrastalization from Josh. Wave Crash is the option. And it does not come close to knocking out that Ogerpon. And the Fire Ivy Cudgel will come out and finish off the Dondozo. Just a little Tatsugiri remaining now for Josh, and I think that'll be game number 1.
Yep, I think if you were Josh here, you're like, why did I bring in Dondozo? I personally, and there's the knockout. Yeah. I do think here, if Joshua, we saw it in the last set as well, that he was in. Dondozo wasn't, it did work in game 1, but game 3 and was negated. It was going Chi-Yu Fluttermane combo, and I honestly think that is a better combo against Anthony's team. You do so much on having speed boost on Fluttermane Photosynthesis is just nice against pretty much everything on Anthony's side. And then partnered with Chi-Yu in the sun. I mean, I'm really surprised we didn't see Chi-Yu come out, considering there's so much in the sun here that it can hit. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Joshua swap on out here and get rid of the Dondozo Tatsugiri combo, still lead Chi-Pao Dragonite, but then go for Chi-Yu Fluttermane. But again, even if you do lead with that, you got a 50-50 shot again, because Chi-Pao Dragonite, do you go Aqua Jet, do you go Extreme Speed, do you go Icicle Crash? There's so many different options.
Yeah, exactly, and that was the big issue in the last game, is that the wrong options were chosen. The Fluttermane was able to get the double knockout immediately and set up the Dondozo in a place where it just didn't have the health to work with to try to knock out the rest of the remaining Pokemon. Yeah. See if either of these players decides to change anything up as well. That's a thing, we didn't see Tornadus at all in the last game, and Tornadus is still a Pokemon that can manually set Sun pretty well. That's a nice thing about Tornadus, is that you're able to do things that aren't Sun, but you're also able to put Sun down, and you're not really wasting a spot, because you kind of want it anyways, especially in a meta where Alolan Ninetales becomes more common.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think this is a better lead for Anthony, right? Because you have the Sunny Day option, and yeah, you're kind of sacrificing the fact that Chi-Pao can... we're going to actually see Chi-Yu Flutter lead. I was going to say sacrificing the fact that Chi-Pao can just... is going to stay alive with a Focus Sash, but I think setting up Tailwind is really going to be important here, because we were talking about it. This Fluttermane is fast, and it's got a speed boost thanks to Photosynthesis, so you set up your Tailwind and you can Shadow Ball it, and odds are that Fluttermane goes down. You do got to watch out for the Chi-Yu, though, because full power Heat Waves, especially if you set up Sun, it's going to be very scary.
Yeah, indeed. Now you have to watch out for which one of these two you really have to manage. I think actually you might have to get rid of the Chi-Yu before you get rid of the Fluttermane.
Yeah.
In any case, we will see the early Terrastalization once again. It's Anthony's Fluttermane becoming a full fairy type, getting that extra damage onto its fairy type moves.
It is a very threatening Flutter Mane right now.
It really is. Tailwind comes out.
Are we going to see Dazzling Gleam or Moonblast or Shadow Ball?
Let's see. It's Moonblast.
That's smart. I think Chiyu lives this slightly, but
and it's targeted into Chiyu.
Nope.
And Chiyu goes all the way down.
There you go.
Quick knockout for Anthony's Flutter Mane. And it's just Icy Wind in return.
It's a
So
good
it's more
play.
speed management, but at the same time, losing your Chiyu this early is not great. It does mean that Tornadus can set... Well, yeah, Tornadus can set Sun, and there's no downside to it.
You know what? I think if you... Oh, I was really hoping not to see Dondozo in this match. If you go into... Because I was like, I think Joshua's in a really good spot right now. If you brought out Dragonite and Terrestrial Extreme Speeded. Because there's not much on Anthony's side that can resist that. Every single thing here, with the exception of Landorus and Ogerpon, even Landorus and Ogerpon can go down to it. But Dondozo... It's a bit of a mistake, I think, here. I do think you can go for a Wave Crash or Earthquake, depending on what you want, but...
The problem as well you have to watch out for is that
Sunny Day
can come up from Tornadus, and suddenly that Wave Crash is doing way less, which is probably the issue in the last one. Dondozo will protect, just leave it
Not a bad play.
a little bit healthier for the rest of this turn. Sunny Day will come up for Tornadus, and that will activate the Photosynthesis for Flutter Mane. That's a really high special attack now. And just an Icy Wind coming out of the opposing Flutter Mane now does outspeed Anthony's Flutter Mane even through the Tailwind.
And that's pretty important. And that was a good call for Joshua. I think that was what you needed to do. Make sure your Dondozo is able to take a hit. I think here you actually stay in with Tornadus. I would not switch it because there's a likely Earthquake incoming. It's the most consistent move onto that Flutter Mane on Anthony's side. And you're able to go for it right away after the Flutter Mane switches out here. But
Fury will switch in. We'll get the Commander.
Here's the thing, though. I think the Flutter Mane is still able to outspeed. If it is neutral speed with max speed investment, Dondozo does not take it out.
It'll be interesting. It definitely won't be able to outspeed at -2 speed, I believe.
I think that. So then, how much does the Moonblast do? And the Sun with the choice specs and Terra. That's a overwhelming combo.
It is an overwhelming combo. We'll see. We'll see. It will be a spread move on the Earthquake. It does go for the Earthquake, and so it'll be a little bit less damage on there. It still outspeeds even through all the Icy Winds.
Joshua played it right. That's a
ton of damage. Order Up coming out, and so the Flutter Mane will stay up. The Order Up comes through. Speed is boost another level.
Okay, now you're in good shape. Earthquake. Earthquake all the way. There's not much that they can do. The thing is, Tornadus can switch in. I think this is a good switch out for Flutter Mane on Anthony's side. Go into Tornadus here. Go for an Earthquake. You get rid of Ogerpon, but then at the next turn, either you get Bleakwind Stormed, or you get Moonblasted again. And I think right now, you could also Spiky Shield. Actually, it's not bad, but you are going to still lose Flutter Mane if you don't switch out. Spiky Shield, switch to Tornadus, or just go for the attack and switch to Tornadus. I think actually Spiky Shield, switch to Tornadus is probably the best bet. Because you want to get rid of that Flutter Mane Icy Winds. And Tornadus is a very safe switch in right now.
Tornadus will indeed come in here. Tornadus, the Pokemon fan.
And is a Protect. I think that's not horrible. It's scouting out the possible Spiky Shield. Once again, you're in a 50-50 game. They could go for the... okay. It's a 50-50 game of the Terras. Again, do you Terra if you're Joshua, try expecting a Horn Leech? Or do you expect that Ivy Cudgel and stay in water? Also, it's important to keep in mind, this Dondozo is Rocky Helmet. It is not leftover, so it doesn't have recovery.
Yeah, it has no recovery. Both of the Dondozos we saw today are Rocky Helmet, don't have any recovery, just have to sit with the HP that they're given. And yeah, I mean, if it's a Terastal, then Ivy Cudgel just kind of finishes it, as well as Bleakwind Storm probably. And Tornadus is pretty fast now. We'll set up the Tailwind. Not a bad idea.
That's, I think, really smart.
It's the Flutter Mane back in there. And the Ivy Cudgel will come out. No Terastallization, but it still does enough. Critical hit.
Oh, did that matter? I don't think so in the Sun, but still just kind of like... really sad. It's still really sad to see. I think, okay, I'm not going to say that it's over yet, though, because there is one thing that we got to keep in mind. This Flutter Main's got Pro Synthesis speed as long as the sun is up, which is really good, and it potentially could help you if this, because I think if this Tatsugiri goes for an Icy Wind, and this Flutter Main goes for a Dazzling Gleam, you will probably pick up a knockout on both of the opposing Pokemon. Then it all comes down to the opposing Flutter Main, and I think a Dazzling Gleam, if it's got the speed, thanks to the Tornado's Tailwind, that Dazzling Gleam's going to wrap it up for Anthony, but it's a 50-50 still.
It's still a close matchup here. The first to move is the Terastallization. I believe that would be it's the Tatsugiri. You don't see this all that often.
Terra Steel Tatsugiri.
Terra Steel Tatsugiri. Gonna give it a little bit more bulk. Gonna make it a little bit harder to take down with, especially for that Flutter Main, if and when it comes back in.
I like that, actually. You know, it keeps Tatsugiri alive, gives you a free Icy Wind. The Horn Leech is now resisted as well.
Horn Leech still did a decent chunk of damage there.
Tatsugiri is pretty fragile. And it's actually going to get, I think, this Ogerpon into safety. Bleakwind Storm onto a Steel type will most likely not KO the Tatsugiri, but if you get that speed drop, that's going to be crucial.
Nope, it does not. Icy Wind will still come out and not take down the Tornadus. Actually brings the Ogerpon to exactly the health it was at before the Horn Leech. Oh. Sun wears off. Now the question is, if you're Anthony, do you put the sun back up and make the Flutter Main faster? Or do you leave the sun down and potentially let yourself take a little bit more damage?
I think you leave the sun down here because I think you have Ninetales in the back. Leave the sun down this turn, you get a chip on Flutter Main. Probably you're going to see Ogerpon go down no matter what. Double Protect.
Double Protect attempt there, and it will not succeed. Bleakwind Storm comes out. A little bit of damage on both. No speed drops. The Ivy Cudgel will finish off Tatsugiri.
It's not a horrible spot, but it's not a horrible spot. It's not a horrible spot. It's going to be
pretty bad.
It's going to be a tough against this. Okay, I'm not going to count it out.
I'm pretty close to counting it out.
There's a reason. Dazzling Gleam. Okay, well. Okay, here's what Joshua needs to do. You need to click Dazzling Gleam and hope for a crit on Ogerpon.
Yeah, I think that's the only option, right?
The thing is, you do outspeed the opposing Flutter, but you've got to. If you get Tornado switched out, it's game. You can wrap it up then because you do have speed control after this next turn. But you basically got to hope for a crit on Dazzling Gleam on Ogerpon.
Tornadus will be preserved. Gonna switch that back out. Ninetales will come in.
Just kind of, I guess, ensuring that finish on with the ID Cudgel. Again, you just gotta hope for a critical hit here.
Or you could the Flutter Main here.
Could go for Shadow Ball on it and possibly knock it out.
Shadow Ball does come out, does predict that. Shadow Ball does do enough to take out the Ogerpon, does crit. Don't think that matters.
I don't think it mattered either. Okay.
So the Flutter Main waits out the Tailwind, but now Tornadus can come back in and set the Tailwind again.
Right now, I think you Shadow Ball Ninetales because you know Tornadus is going to stay in. Okay. You're banking on a Heat Wave miss now too, but there's so many things that can just...
You're banking on a lot of potential misses here, and that's even before we get to the matchup with the other Flutter Main.
You're gonna base it, if Joshua wins this, you're using up your luck for the year.
Yeah.
But there is like a pathway where you miss where there's the Bleakwind misses, there's the Heatwave misses, and if you can read a switch into Flutter Main eventually safely, that's basically your bet.
So at the same time, I think Anthony can just wait for Tornadus to drop.
Yeah.
Or Ninetales to drop, and then just bring in Flutter Main then. Heatwave will be the fastest thing. That did a lot of damage to Flutter Main. Dazzling Gleam is what comes out. Takes down the Tornadus, and now it'll just be one Flutter Main against two other Pokemon. Another Flutter Main and a Ninetales.
Alright, here's what you do. Here we go. You land the triple protect. And then you Shadow Ball.
And then you hope for what, a Heatwave miss?
Yep, and just hope for the Heatwave miss.
Yeah, hope for the Heatwave miss, and you need like a critical hit on the other Flutter Main with a Shadow Ball.
Yeah, you just go for Energy
and,
Ball.
It's
over. This is going to Anthony. Very funny. This Flutter Main has the survivability of just as good a tanky Pokemon as any, I would say. It did live a lot. I do, going into hindsight, I don't know why we didn't see Dragon Knight on this matchup. I think it was actually really good against it.
Especially once the Fluttermane was forced into Terra Fairy or decided to Terra Fairy. Dragon Knight suddenly had a much better matchup.
Exactly.
It can go Terra Normal, because, I mean, and there's the Moonblast. That'll finish things off.
Yeah. Anthony Plasencia is going to top 4. And you know what? Anthony is, like I said, a very well-respected player here, and he's just, and once again, showed it today, commanding the sun, commanding the speed with Tornadus. And honestly, I love these creative teams with the weather. You know, we're not used to seeing Kanto Ninetales, and just finding so many Pokemon where Fluttermane, Ogerpon Fire, Tornadus, and Kanto Ninetales, they all benefit from the sun. And what's really cool about them, they all have really different functions, you know, because Fluttermane and Ogerpon Fire is just such an offensive combo. In the sun, you boost both of their attack stats, which are one's attack, one's special attack. It's just a really creative team that is really functions so well against so much. And I think that kind of goes to show that Anthony, like I said, well respected for a reason here.
Yeah, I'd be really curious to see how that how the Sun team matches up into other weather teams and the teams trying to, including like the Tornadus that tries to manually set the rain, something like that. But I really like how this is all set up together, and I really liked this team collectively. I did think it really worked well.
Yeah, absolutely. And same goes for Joshua's team. Obviously didn't quite work out in this matchup. We did see earlier it succeeded really well because you have so many different ways it can go. You in the back, like we said, you don't know if you're going to bring out Chien-Pao and Dragonite or Dondozo Tatsugiri, and you could lead with pretty much a lot. You can even lead with Dondozo Tatsugiri, especially in this format. I think that's a bit more safe because you can just Terra right away, and it is a nice lead. Obviously, with Ogerpon around, it's scary, but if you don't have Ogerpon, it's a really safe lead, I'd say, because Rillaboom can't do that much onto you either. But yeah, it's just both teams here, super creative, super fun match. And it was just a really good time to see Kanto Ninetales on stream.
Yeah.
I'm happy about that.
Just a fun match overall. And we will now take a quick break, and we'll be back with the semifinal round here from Gym Challenge number 2. Do not go anywhere.
See you guys later.